You're trying to hide something? The things in your past that you're ashamed of? You hiding stuff from your family and friends, loved ones? Guess what, honey? We're going to be transparent today. And we're going to lay it all out on the line. We're going to get over this thing called shame. All right? Stay tuned. Today, I wanted to get into a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. It's what I have built my platform on for the past few years, and that's being transparent with my shame and realizing that shame is a breeding ground for feeling unworthy and feeling unloved and feeling like I don't belong or you don't belong. And Brene Brown defined, I was listening to one of her recordings, and she defines shame as an intensely painful feeling of not feeling loved, being unworthy of love and belonging. But you know what? We gonna deal with this today because I feel that we can overcome this feeling of shame. There are different things that we can do to get over it. And one of those things that we can do is to talk about it, to stop keeping everything a secret. But you know, keeping things secret is, I don't believe it's an innate characteristic. I do believe that it's a learned behavior. I believe that it's a family trait. If your mother kept secrets, then you're more likely to keep secrets. If your grandparents kept secrets, then you're more likely to keep secrets. And I want to go ahead and dispel that today. I want to get rid of these feelings that we have to be ashamed of our past or events that have happened in our past. We talk about it, shame can't live. Shame, the one thing that kills shame is to speak about it. And when you speak about it, most times, more times than not, there's going to be some empathy. And empathy, where empathy is, shame can't live. So if you're speaking about it and you're talking to someone about it, then the more than likely that shame cannot live within you any longer. So that's what I want to talk about today. Transparency and being vulnerable is not a weakness. Being vulnerable is actually displaying a sort of strength. It's showing exactly how strong you are because you're willing to lay it all on the line. You're willing to let people see you for who you are, your mistakes, your hiccups, your idiosyncrasies, things in your life that have caused you to be who you are and how you act. But we're going to go ahead and deal with that today. I wanted to be very transparent today. I wanted to speak about some things that have gone on in my life, and so that you can understand that I'm speaking from a personal point of view. I'm not just speaking about this just to give a fluff piece or to just have a video up just to have a video up. I really wanted to be transparent and to share with you a little bit of my story. I was so ashamed of my life in my teens and early 20s. I suppressed a lot of memories. I tried to forget a lot of things that happened. And once I started to deal with a lot of that is when I began to heal. It's when I began to realize that the more I talk about it, the better I feel. The more I feel free and I feel lighter. I feel like there are weights that have been lifted off of my shoulders because I am releasing some of the things that happened to me that other people did, and also some things that I did to myself because I have to take responsibility for a lot of the things that happened in my life. And a lot of those things, yes, I was ashamed of. In high school, I dated the same guy. I had a boyfriend that was a few years older. He was actually a student at A&T at the time. And when I graduated from high school, we literally spent every day together. We saw each other quite often. And when I graduated from high school, I asked him for just a little break to step away to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And during this time frame, he was seeing someone else and pregnant, and she got pregnant. Well, I assumed that we were going to get back together. I thought that eventually we would be together, we would be married, we would have our own family. So this was quite devastating to me. At that time, I had moved out of my parents' house and I was living with one of my girlfriends at the time. She her father had passed away and left her a house, so I was living there with her. And when he came to the house and he told me that, I feel at that very moment is when my heart began to harden, and when I became a person that was able to not have feelings. That actually started it. Well, I can't actually say that. There was an event prior to that that happened. That's probably what started me to put a wall up and to not want to be close to anyone and to be hard and to shut down a lot. And when this happened with my ex-boyfriend in high school, it just started to add to that wall. So, you start here and then you get here and then you get here. So it just started to build up at that time. Right after that event happened, I just became a person that didn't really have any feelings for anyone. And I was dating several guys and just living my life as I was just living my life and doing whatever I wanted to do. And during this time, I was at a friend's house, and it was several people from my childhood, from high school, and from the surrounding areas that we knew. And a guy asked me to go into the house with him, and we went into a bedroom. And he shut the door and he locked the door, and we started kissing. So I, was trying to say no. This is not what I want to do. This is not right. Because I knew who he was dating, I knew who he had been with. And I tried to tell him no. And he did not take no for an answer. And he forced himself on me. And I didn't share that with anybody for years. I suppressed it. I pretended that I wanted to do that so that it would justify what actually happened. And I remember when I was trying to fight him off, there was someone outside the window, because I was actually able to get up and I looked outside, and there was a girl standing outside the window, and I felt like she knew what was going on, but she didn't do anything. And I tried to leave the room, and he grabbed me, and you know, it happened. And I pretended that it was an event that maybe I wanted deep down. So I didn't want to call it rape because I knew him. So how could I call someone a rapist whom I had known for so long, for so many years? And so I tried to justify it. I tried to make it okay. I tried to make it right. Because if I told anybody, would they believe me? Would they actually believe that he forced himself on me? Not this guy. I don't think that I would have been believed. And that's sad. That's so sad that we as women have to deal with that. We have to believe that when something horrible happens to us, that we have to protect that person instead of protecting ourselves. So I let it go. I pretended it didn't happen. I pretended it was just another moment in my life. And after that, I feel like I became pretty promiscuous. I just started being with guys and didn't have any feelings with them. Didn't have any kind of true relationship, nothing deep, nothing that I felt was going to last longer than a couple months, a couple weeks, a couple days. It didn't matter because I didn't have any feelings. At that time, I was becoming very numb and very distant to feelings. I didn't care. And I became pregnant. I was 18 and I got pregnant by one of these guys. And long story short, after speaking with family, I had an abortion. And soon after I had the abortion, I moved to Baltimore. It was decided that it was probably the best thing for me to have a new start, to start over and to begin a life that could possibly bring me happiness or success or whatever it is I was searching for at that time. So I moved to Baltimore and I was doing very well. I was doing pretty good. Had a job in DC, was traveling from Baltimore to DC on a regular basis every morning. And then I got a job at the University of Maryland Medical Systems, and I worked there for 4 years. And during this time period, I met another guy. And during this time period, I met another guy, and I got pregnant again. Oh, Jesus. And we weren't like in a relationship or anything. There was no love. It was what it was. It was completely physical, and I can say that now. I'm not ashamed because I've dealt with that. And I was going to have the baby. You know, I don't think I ever even considered an abortion during that time. And I remember I was laying in my apartment in the bed, and I felt something. And I remembered laying there, and when I looked down, I loved white. I had white furniture. My bed sheets were white. Everything was white. In my house at that time, I was probably 20, 21. And I looked down, it was blood everywhere. And I was having a miscarriage. And I couldn't understand why God would allow that to happen after everything I had been through. And I decided to have this baby, and I wanted to nurture something. I wanted to bring something into the world that was mine. And when I realized that I was having the miscarriage, I think I immediately shut down even more. And the guy and I, we weren't together, but I had another guy in my life, but it wasn't physical at that time. And he was a great friend. He was a good friend. I remember him taking me to the hospital when I had to have the procedure to have the fetus removed. And he was there with me. He took me to and from the hospital. And he became a very, very close friend, someone that's still very near and dear to my heart. And I was so disconnected from reality at that point. I just did not feel anything for anybody except my close family, and I kept them at arm's length as well. So when I say that I know a little bit about shame, I know a little something about shame, and I understand that there are moments in our lives that we want to forget. There are moments in our lives that we don't want to share with anybody. We want to pretend that it didn't happen. We want to pretend that we weren't that person. Or we want to pretend that that person didn't violate us, didn't take advantage of us, because we're so strong. We stand so tall in front of other people that if people actually knew our truth, how would they react? What would they say? But you know what? You're only hurting yourself. I'm not saying you got to get on YouTube and tell all your business like me. But you know what? Find that friend. Find someone that you can sit down and talk to. Write it in your journal. Let that shame out. Don't let it fester. Don't let it compound and continue to build up and cause you to be so hardened that you can't love, that you can't accept love, and that you feel unworthy, because you're not. You're not unworthy. You are so worthy of being loved, of being appreciated, of being given a chance to love. I need you to understand that. The way to untangle yourself from shame is to acknowledge the problem. What happened to make you feel shame? Who did something to you? Did you do it yourself? Speak to yourself like you're talking to a friend or a loved one. When you're talking about, when you're acknowledging that shame or what it is that you're going through, speak about it in a way that's loving, that's kind. If you're talking to one of your best friends and she's revealing to you some of the things that you are revealing to someone else, would you tell her that she's stupid? Would you tell her that she's a horrible person for the things that she's done? No, you wouldn't. So why would you talk to yourself that way? Be caring to yourself. Be easy on yourself. Be loving to yourself. Share your story. Dig deep. Leave no stone unturned. Clean out every crevice, every bad shadow, every dark shadow that you've tried to cover up for years. Dig deep and bring it all out. That's the only way to allow shame to not live. It has to die. You have to let it go. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, once you deal with that shame, once you deal with those issues that you've been trying to cover up for so many years, you'll be a much better person, not only for other people, but for yourself. Shame is an unspoken epidemic, the secret behind many forms of broken behavior, of hate, of unforgiveness, of not trusting anyone, of the feelings of unworthiness. This is the breeding ground for shame. Shame thrives on those characteristics. But let's deal with them. Let's show shame that it has nowhere to hide. Uncover those secrets. Let them out. Release them. What are you holding on to that's causing you to not feel loved and to feel unworthy? I know for so many years I was angry. I didn't look like it. I didn't portray it most of the time, but I was. I was angry at myself because I suppressed so much that happened in my life. And that wasn't all. I mean, I could give you story after story after story of things that I'm ashamed of, or I was ashamed of. I'm no longer ashamed of them. I have revealed quite a lot in my blog that I started writing years ago. I don't have a reason to be ashamed anymore. And when people ask me questions about certain things, I don't try to hide them. I mean, there are some things that I protect for the privacy of other people because their truths are not mine to share. So, of course, I do keep some things a secret to protect them. But if it has to do with me and the ability or the fact that it's going to be a part of my healing process, I don't have a problem with sharing it. And so I hope you do the same. What are you sharing? What are you not sharing? What are you hiding? What are you keeping a secret? What are you ashamed of? Start that process of healing and deal with that shame. So leave me some comments below. Let me know what you're going to do to make things better for yourself, to let go of that shame, to let go of that unworthiness and the feeling of not belonging or being loved. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Bye. And remember to choose joy.